The history of North India from 10th to 12th century is a history of India being affected by the politics of Central Asia. From the time of Alexander's invasion, in fact, even before that, when Darius the First tried to conquer the northwestern frontier, a type of communication channel was built which sustained over a period of time. Then came the Arabs in the form of invaders who could not do much but established their forte in terms of the Arabian Sea trade, and because of which India continued to have trade relations with Central Asia. What happened in the early medieval times? Because early medieval India, we generally consider a period from say 750 to 1206 AD, was not only about Indian politics, Indian society, Indian economics, but also about what was happening post the fall of Abbasid Empire. The Abbasids declined by 9th century, and post the decline of the Abbasids emerged a number of contestants who vied for the control of Persia, the control of the region from Constantinople to as east as the northwestern frontier of India. Islam, which was established somewhere around 6th century, and it became popular, Islam after its formation started spreading from the Arabian Peninsula everywhere in all directions, and very soon, over a few centuries, it was a major religion in the northern Africa, in Constantinople, that is the present day Turkey, and also in Persia. So this history is also a history of change, in which we see that parts of Central Asia, such as the Tajikistan region, the Afghanistan region, where Buddhism was very influential, because Ashoka had spread, he had popularized and disseminated the Buddhist ideals through the Dhamma Mahamatras. So this history, when we are talking about Turkish invasion, Turkish advance towards India, it is about Central Asian politics also. It is about the rise of new belief system, that is Islam, and new zeal to spread the religion. And this was not only about religion, it was not only about politics, but it was about economics also. Economics in terms of capturing the fertile regions, namely the Transoxiana between river Oxus and river Darya. So let us try to understand how did the change of politics, how did the change of power, and how did the emerge of a new belief system propel a number of groups who again after some period of time now invaded India. But it was very different from the Arabian invasion, the Arabs invasion in 8th century, because now it was going to result in a full-fledged sultanate, which we'll see sometimes later. So this was going to have a long-term consequence. We have already understood in terms of the Bhakti Sufi movement that it was also about emergence of new philosophical outlook, which also had similarities with the existing philosophy of the India. So let us understand about Turkish invasion. Before that, let us first see the map and understand how all the drama was playing out. It is all about the spread of Islam. Islam started spreading from here, and very soon it was all over the Iranian region, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. So it was gradually extending its influence, and amidst this, the influence of Buddhism, it was shrinking. We are focusing upon a few of the reasons where all this politics was playing out. We are concerned about Khorasan. This is the Khorasan region, which is depicted in a different shade. We are concerned about a fertile region, that is Transoxiana. So all the successor political powers which emerged after the fall of Abbasids, they were vying for the control of this fertile plain. And because it was all about politics and they were emphasizing upon capturing power through superior military force, hence they wanted to mobilize more and more resources. Around this time, We use a term that is frequently understood as Turks. When I say Turk, I do not mean inhabitants of the present day Turkey, but those people or those tribes who spoke Turkish language. So in the successor powers, these Turkish tribes, they were being integrated. So we see integration of Turkish tribes. And when they were being integrated and they were being used as mercenaries means paid soldiers, they also were exposed to the new belief system, that is Islam. They were exposed to the evolved and the developed culture of Persia. So these Turks, they were not only being Islamicized, but they were also being Persianized. New spirit, a new zeal emerged within them, because now they saw themselves as more culture, more evolved tribes than the rest. Because they were Islamicized and Persianized, they upheld and they wanted to preserve it from the non-believers who were known as Kafirs. It is known, it is not mystery that from time immemorial, all the Central Asian ruling tribes, or even the Persians and then later the Greeks, they were attracted by India, especially the northern belt, because it was fertile. The Central Asia was largely a barren land. Apart from the Transoxiana region or the riverine belt, it was mainly a desert. Hence, they looked upon the Gangetic plains, they look upon the Indus plains as a fertile or a resource base because of its agricultural potential. India was also known as the Golden Bird, and India had amassed vast wealth over a period of time because of a number of states which had emerged. These Turks were also attracted towards India because of the mountain passes which enabled them access to India over a very convenient land route, and they could access this land route by traversing through the fierce horses, the fine bred horses and the camels, which were a means of communication in Central Asia. Around this time, we see that four empires emerged. So we have already discussed that after the fall of Abbasids, the Turks, these Turks are those people who are speaking Turkish language. These Turks are the people who have been integrated because they were employed as mercenaries, as soldiers by the Persians. Hence, they were exposed to Islam. They adopted Islam and they were also very much attracted to the Persian culture. To preserve, to protect Islam, they proclaimed themselves as Ghazi. This spirit, this religious fervor is known as the Ghazi spirit. And this slogan was also used later by a number of Turkish invaders against the rulers of India who were non-Islamic by their faith. We see emergence of four dynasties in Central Asia after the Abbasids. These four dynasties, because they did not have any legitimacy to rule, so they were able to capture power through military supremacy. So the politics of Central Asia was based on the politics of sword. Whoever could mobilize more resources, whoever could mobilize more, a larger army and ammunition could stake their claim to the throne. The Samanids, all of them were ruling in a overlapping area. If you see the territorial extent, then all of them were ruling over different time periods from 9th century. We are concerned about the Ghaznavid because they were able to attack and they were responsible for the plunder of India, for a series of events which were going to unfold in the next 2 centuries. A Turkish imperialism, a trend emerged in which they were excited to capture more and more territory. Turkish imperialism with respect to India was guided by two factors. First, India's resource base, the vast resource base of India, which would enable them to raise army for their Central Asian political aspirations. So they thought that let us go to India, plunder, come back with a rich war booty and raise army. And they were also attracted to India because India was accessible. So, mountain passes. They emphasized on military potentiality based on cavalry. The fine bred horses of Central Asia, of the Steppes region, had been in demand also in India. The Pratiharas were importing it. Even in South, after the Arabs' invasion of Sindh, when the Arabs merchant were operating actively on the western coast, a number of South Indian rulers, even the Cholas, used to import horses. The cavalry was more deadly because of the light mounted archers. So, archers who were stationed on horses, they could maneuver very easily. And we will see later that in the battles with the Rajputs, especially in the second battle of Tarai, the swift movement and the change of position of this cavalry proved to be instrumental and fatal for the Prithviraj Chauhan III. Also, they were excited. They were able to mobilize the whatever mineral profile was there in Ghur region. Now, mineral profile mainly in terms of iron, and iron was used for weapons. Now, Ghur, we will see that Ghur is a region which is located between Herat and Ghazni. We will be speaking more about Ghurs, which is a mountainous tract between the Ghaznavids. This is a mountainous tract between the Ghaznavid Empire and the Seljuks. Now, the Ghazi spirit. The Ghazi spirit worked in two ways. First, it is always difficult to mobilize tribal community or a tribal force because they are very independent and very fierce, and they generally do not listen to anyone. So that has been the case with the Pathans also. So if you see the history of Afghanistan, Afghanistan apart from Britain is the only nation which has never been subjugated, and hence it does not celebrate its Independence Day. So the Pathans of Afghanistan, they are so fierce that it is very difficult and almost impossible to subordinate them. So Ghazi spirit, because these tribes who were incorporated and who were made aware of the superior Persian culture, they were fired by a spirit. They upheld a spirit to preserve Islam. And in the name of preserving Islam, they came together. And first of all, they attacked everyone else because all these empires, all these Samanids, Ghaznavids, Seljuk, Khwarizm, all of them were subjected to the constant attacks of the nomadic non-Islamic tribes. So the Ghazi spirit initially it helped in raising an army, and also later in the name of religion, the Ghazi in the name of religion, Mahmud Ghazni and Muhammad Ghori was able to rally the forces against the Hindu kings and against the Rajput kings of North India. Then we come across a system that is known as Ikta system. Now, we have already discussed that the army was mobilized by some means by employing these tribesmen, and in the form of payment they used to be given a share in war booty or war loot. Gradually, over a period of time, more structured form of payment emerged known as Ikta system. If you see, the origin of Ikta system emerged somewhere in Central Asia, and it was a ad hoc basis of payment in which the soldiers, in which the mercenaries, the paid soldiers were promised a fair share in the war booty, war loot, if they fight on behalf of the ruler. So in fact, because they were provided a share in the war loot, also because of which they were more fierce. Later, over a period of time, Ikta system became a form of territorial assessment, which was generally used to pay military generals and also later civil administrators such as nobles. Ikta system is very different from a jagir or different from a feudal setup. In Ikta system, a piece of land is given, and the Iktadar, the person who is given a land, is known as Mukti, Wali, or a Iktadar also. So the Mukti, Wali, and Iktadar is given the right to collect land revenue from the assigned or allotted piece of land, and out of this, a proportion of the land revenue, the Iktadar can keep to himself. The rest, the balance, is known as Fawazil. This payment was both for the personal salary and for the maintenance of the troops. So Ikta system in India was introduced by Mahmud Ghazni and later by Muhammad Ghori, and it was also tweaked, as we will see the different rulers of the Delhi Sultanate. It was tweaked by various rulers based on the existing situation. So because of Ikta system, which initially was in the form of a share in the war loot and later became a form of payment, the soldiers, the military generals also saw a personal advantage in serving the emperor. And Ikta system of the Turks proved to be superior to the feudal system of the Rajputs, because in feudal system the vassal or the feudal lord, although he accepted the sovereignty of the king and commanded and supplied his own individual troop or the vassal army, the integration was not as strong. Here, because of the personal interest, the general, even the soldiers knew that if they will win the war, they will have a fair share in the captured territory in form of territorial assessment. So Ikta system was also one of the characteristic features of the new Turks who were imperialist by mindset, who wanted to expand at any cost. And for this expansion, they looked to India as a very good exchequer, as a resource base from where they could exploit all sorts of resources. The invasion of Turks of North India was also factored by the existing political condition in India. It was not only because of the existing or the intricate Central Asian politics, but also the politics of North India, which in a way was invitation to these Turkish invaders. So what was the political condition in India on the eve of Turkish invasion? One thing we know, or the early medieval Indian polity was a feudal polity. Feudal polity in which a number of small landed magnates or landholders also kept their own army. So feudal polity, after, especially after Harshvardhan, no powerful or you can say a large empire existed in North India. So this feudal polity was disintegrative. This feudal polity was autonomous in small pockets, because instead of a large empire, there were multiple small ruling houses. It was easy for the invaders to come and capture and defeat them one by one. Fragmented polity in North India, we see after Harshvardhan. So post Harsha, especially around mid 10th century, two of the powerful ruling houses, they were on a decline. They were the Pratiharas of North India and West India and the Rashtrakutas. Post decline of the Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas emerged a number of feudatory rulers, means the chiefs who were serving in the Gurjar Pratihara kingdom or in the Rashtrakuta kingdom, they assumed independent status and they started ruling as independent dynasties. These feudatory chiefs or these feudatory kings, they were fighting with each other. So there was a lot of mutual fighting. So there was no mutual cooperation, there was a lot of fighting, and they were also trying to expand at the expense of each other. And because of which they failed to present a unified front. So because of the absence of this, so hence no unified front. Because they were constantly fighting, they failed, they neglected the defense of northwestern frontier, the same frontier from where the time of Persians invaders began to come in different phases of time. The new class of rulers who emerged in Western India, the Rajputs. We will see more about the Rajputs. The Rajputs, although they were by their character very brave, for them war was a matter of sport, but they also were fighting with each other. And because they were fighting with each other and they sought glory in the decline of the other, hence they could not foresee the larger threat which was looming over their existence right from the time of 10th century. These Rajput rulers, they lacked strategic foresight. They were short-sighted and they did not cooperate or did not coalesce as a one larger force when the invaders came over a period of time. We see large number of smaller kingdoms were there. For example, Delhi was under the Tomars. Chahmanas or the Chauhans. In many books, you will find Chahmanas, Chauhans who were ruling over Ajmer. And these Chauhans, especially Prithviraj Chauhan the third, he was trying to capture Gujarat Malwa region. He was also trying to capture Mathura Delhi region also. So because of which Chauhans, even though they were very powerful, they had a large army, the Chauhans had alienated all of their neighbors. Hence, when Muhammad Ghori attacked, he was left alone. And one of the biggest foe or enemy of the Chauhans was the Gadhawalas of Kannauj. It is said that when Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated in the second battle of Tarai in 1192, Jayachand celebrated, not knowing that the next it was his turn and he was defeated in the next 2 years in the battle of Chandawar. Bundelkhand was again under Chandelas. Chauhans had also defeated the Chandelas, and in a beautiful description of the bravery and the resistance that the Chandelas offered, Prithviraj Raso, the book, which is more of a eulogy of the exploits of Prithviraj Chauhan III, written by his court poet Chand Bardai, he has written that when the Chauhans defeated Chandelas, they fell. Ala and Udal, two of the great brave generals of the Chandelas, how they laid their life. In Gujarat, the Chalukyas, the Solankis were ruling, and again Chauhans were fighting with the Chalukyas. By now, the Palas, who were also a part, who were the third link in the tripartite struggle, the Palas had declined and now they were confined to the few pockets of Bihar. And in Bengal, the Sena dynasty had emerged. Again, the Sena dynasty, whose history origin is traced to the Chalukyas of Badami. It is believed that when Rajendra Chola crossed river Godavari, crossed river Mahanadi and reached as far as north as Ganges, then along with his vast army, a number of ruling chiefs also went north of Vindhyas. And one of these class of chiefs established the Sena dynasty, taking advantage of the declining administration of the later Palas. In South India, again we hear of Cholas, Cheras, Chalukyas and Pallavas, especially that of Cholas. The Cholas were on their declining phase. In North India, in Kashmir region, there is again a reference of a regent queen who is portrayed as treacherous. But what is remarkable is that despite being a woman, she stands out as an excellent stateswoman. She was able to maintain the political stability of Kashmir. Dida is also said to have poisoned her own grandsons. So Dida is referred, and we hear of few of the important women rulers in the history of entire history of ancient India and medieval India. We hear of Razia Sultana, we hear of Dida, and we hear of Prabhavati Gupta also. So it is important from your prelims and also mains point of view that sometimes it may be asked that the women who made a difference in the history of India. So even before the freedom struggle, you have to mention the name of these women regents. We have understood that it was the situation was ripe, the invitation was there. So we have both push and pull factors. Push factors because of the political instability in Central Asia, because of which they had to look to east to expand. And also they were looking to expand, to control, to invade India, to mobilize more and more resources for beautifying their cities and also for mobilizing resources to raise a large army. All this started in the middle of 10th century. Alaptagin, he was a commander of chief of the Samanids. He later became the governor of Ghazni. And then his son-in-law, Subutgin, he proclaimed himself as an independent ruler, and the capital was Ghazni, taking advantage of the declining Samanids. When this was happening in the northwestern frontier, the rulers were Hindu Shahis. The Shahi rulers, especially Jaipala. Jaipala saw a emerging threat, and he was aware that very soon Subudgin will look to east. So he tried to mobilize a force. He tried to mobilize a force with the help of the former governor of Samanids. He tried to mobilize few of the local rulers and attacked the Ghaznavi, but he was defeated. He was defeated, and Kabul and Jalalabad was annexed to Ghazni. So his proactive approach backfired. When Kabul and Jalalabad was lost, Jaipala compensated by annexing territories in the east such as Lahore Multan region. So Lahore Multan became a part of the Hindu Shahi dynasty, Hindu Shahi empire. Things changed. In 999 AD, Mahmud Ghazni ascended the throne. And now Mahmud Ghazni was looking to invade India. Again, the purpose was twofold. First, to mobilize resource, to raise a large army against the Central Asian enemies, so Central Asian politics. And second, he also wanted to beautify, because these Turks, they were so much overawed by the Persian culture. They wanted to be seen as one of the protege of Persian Renaissance. They wanted to be seen as patrons of Persian culture, because there is general tendency whenever any downtrodden or a humble origin person or a community rises in terms of social hierarchy, economic hierarchy, they also try to imbibe, they try to inculcate the practices of the henceforth existing, of the already existing upper class. In India also, we understand this in a way by terms of Sanskritization, in which the well-to-do agricultural class try to imitate the ritual practices of the upper castes, namely the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas. So he was also fired by the Ghazi spirit. He wanted to be seen as he wanted not to be seen as a plunderer or as a usurper to the throne, but he wanted to be seen as a patron of Persian culture. So he wanted to enrich Ghazni and to promote Persian culture. He started, and very soon Jaipala was defeated, and out of shame he committed suicide. So he died, and his capital Hind, or the present day Peshawar, was captured. But his son was allowed to rule for some time. His son was Anandapala. After defeating the Hindu Sahis, he marched to the upper Indus region and captured Nandana salt ranges, and later the fort of Nagarkot in the Kangra region. So we are seeing that gradually he is expanding. He is expanding. Let us see an image. So he is expanding. If you see, so he is coming. So he starts expanding from Ghazni in all the regions. So now Lahore, by 1015, he has captured Lahore. He does not stop after capturing Lahore. Now he enters the Gangetic Plains. He enters the Gangetic Plains and defeats the Rajput king at Bulandshahr, again western UP. He subjugates Kalchuris. Kalchuris, again, they are the successor kings. They were the feudatories of the Pratiharas. Kalchuris were ruling in central India. And Kalchuris were later, they were defeated by the Chandelas also. So Mathura and Vrindavan is plundered, and they sack Kannauj. With the sacking of Kannauj, the last remains of the Pratiharas is gone. So now the Pratiharas have declined as a ruling house. Around this time, he also plunders the famous Somnath temple. So moving to this region, he captures Sindh, and in Gujarat, he plunders the famous Somnath temple. Then he returns. He returns, and around 1029 he captures a part of Iran, that is the earlier times Persia. But in 1030 he dies. So though his successors, his chiefs, were making recurring raids in India, so even after he dies, his chiefs started invading the raids in India for plundering, for capturing more and more resources. but they failed to establish stable political dynasty or a ruling house. So this is the image of the empire which Mahmud Ghazni was able to create in a short span of time. So here again we see they were not able to extend their influence all over the Gangetic plains. So despite the plunder, they could not move further east in the Gangetic plains. So this is again a weakness of the Turkish polity about their inability to consolidate their annexations. The history of Central Asia, especially the northwestern frontier, for the next 150 years, the next 150 years in which North India saw a number of invasions, small invasions, plundering loots, is a history of turmoil, is a history of political tussle, tug of war that was happening in North India, especially in the Rajput fold. And around this time, in the next 150 year, new class of tribes emerged. A new class of tribe emerged from isolated region that is known as Ghur. So this isolated mountainous tract, Ghur, was rich in mineral profile. But the people here, they were earlier believers of paganism, that is Buddhism. So Ghurs, they were believers of Buddhism because Buddhism was here for a long time right after Ashoka, and even the Indo-Greeks, they also patronized Buddhism. It was sandwiched between the Seljukids and the Ghaznavids. Later what happens? The Ghaznavi, they attack Ghur region. And when they attack the Ghur region, attracted by its mineral profile, Islam is introduced in this region. And when Islam is introduced, they are Islamicized. They are now fired by the Ghazi spirit. And over a period of time, in the Ghur principality, in the Ghur mountainous tract, a class of aspirational, a class of ambitious chiefs emerge who were aware of the declining state of the polity of the Ghaznavids and the Seljukids. So they gradually, we can see that now what is happening is that from a class of small chiefs, because some of the military men of Ghur were employed by the Ghaznavids and mainly by the Seljukids. So the Ghur or Muhammad Ghauri that we say, history is all about Ghurids. So it was a small mountainous tract between Ghazni Empire and Seljukids. So you can see that this is the small mountainous tract, and here the Ghaznis, they attack, and when they attacked, they introduced Islam. These Ghurids, they were mercenaries of Seljuks, because of which over a period of time they received military training. So we have seen that there were two pillars which was defining the imperialist tendencies of these tribes. One was a new belief system, a new faith, that is Islam, and second was military potentiality. So they emerged as a prominent polity when a class of chiefs known as the Sasbani chiefs of 12th century, they became more and more ambitious. So these chiefs, they were not satisfied to remain as mere service providers to the ruling houses. And one of them, Alauddin Hassan. Alauddin Hassan was gradually becoming very powerful. When the news of the prominence, the increasing prominence of Alauddin Hassan reached the Ghaznavis, ruler of the then Ghaznavid Empire, Bahram Shah, he poisoned the brother of Alauddin Hassan. And Alauddin Hassan was so much furious by this that he later attacked and defeated the Ghaznavi ruler, and he sacked Ghazni. Because of this, he is known as a world burner, or a person who has razed a beautiful city. He is remembered by the contemporary historians as Jahan Soz. He burnt everything that was lying there. He massacred, he killed everyone. And later declared himself to be an independent ruling house. So because they were independent, they even clashed with the Seljukids. They clashed with the Seljukids to control the resource-rich Khorasan region. And around 1163, around the middle of 12th century, Ghiyasuddin Muhammad ascends the Ghurid throne. So again, we see a new dynasty emerges in Central Asia, that of the Ghurids, and his brother Muizuddin Muhammad, or popularly known as Muhammad Ghori, he is given in charge of Ghazna. So that is this reason. And Muhammad Ghori is going to very soon attack India, invited or attracted not only by the resources but also being aware of the fragile political conditions of North India. So before we move to the extent of Ghurids and how did the Ghurids invade in various phases, let us understand, let us switch to the existing politics of North India, which was defined by the conduct of the Rajputs.